Well, like I said, I've been out for a week without a video camera in my car, etc., so I haven't been doing any videos. I know I do them in my house sometimes, but just it's so much more convenient for me to do them on the way into work because I have extra time. So here is a bill some moron congressman is putting forward. HR 5148. Access to Affordable Mortgages Act of 2014. And it says right off the bat, prognosis, there's a 28% chance of it being enacted. So that's good. Not the greatest chance of it being enacted. Now, what is this? Overview. Representative. And yeah, I will tell you if it's a Democrat, Republican, because they are one and the same. This time we have a Republican. Blaine Luetkemeyer, representative of Missouri's 3rd Congressional District. Full title: to amend the Truth in Lending Act to exempt certain higher risk mortgages from property appraisal requirements and to exempt individuals from penalties for failure to report certain appraisers, and to amend the Financial Institutions Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act of 1989 to exempt certain high or higher risk mortgages from property appraisal requirements and for other purposes. I'm sorry, could you be a little more specific on that last part, other purposes? But not even focusing on that, and let's just go to the co-sponsors. None. No co-sponsors. There have been no votes related to this bill yet. Okay? The committee chair determines whether a bill will move past the committee stage. So I'm hoping, and I would have to say at this point in time, considering the whole financial crisis that started in 2008 was completely related to mortgages being given out, no background checks, no nothing, high property appraisals left and right, bam, 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 bam. Everyone's approved, and then they all failed. Bankruptcies, prices plummeted, etc. You know the story. And now this moron wants to exempt certain, not just, he just flat out said it, the real higher risk mortgages, the ones that have the problems, high risk, we don't even want property appraisals. Like, they can exempt that whole process. Just let them sell the property for whatever price they agree upon that they just want to sell. Forget the appraisal process and just sell it. And if the mortgage goes through on this high-risk property, no one can say later, whoa, 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 how the hell did you give a $1 million, just an example, $1 million house mortgage, you know, someone bought a house for $1 million, yet we've just paid 2 private parties to do appraisals, separate ones, and they're saying this thing's worth $300,000. Oh, we're going to file a lawsuit. Oh, you can't. What do you mean I can't? I'll file a lawsuit. It's worth $300,000. You screwed our bank over. You screwed the mortgage lender over because they gave out $1 million mortgage, and now, once again, they're in deep trouble because it got foreclosed on, and now the bank has to sell it as quickly as possible, and for some reason they can't get that $1 million out of the house that they originally said, yeah, we'll go for it. They can only get $300,000 out of it. They're going to look, why wasn't any appraisals done? Matter of fact, that shows one appraisal was done. Who is this fly-by-night company? Maybe they're bankrupt. Maybe there was not even, as I said, maybe there's not even an appraisal. So then what would that do? If not just mortgages, it said high-risk mortgages. Do you really think, after reading that summary of that bill, this moron congressman put forward? Thank God there's no co-sponsors on that one. I don't know if it can get any worse. Do you really think that there is a chance in hell that moron congressman decided on his own. I think I'm going to write this up. This will probably be good for the market. It'll be good for the recovery of our financial system in this country, and it will definitely be good for the citizens of this country who paid $800 billion on the last financial bailout forcefully. And on top of that, we just increased the Federal Reserve's balance sheet by like $4+ trillion, doing kind of the same thing we used that $800 billion for. But we didn't have to like pass a law for that. They just do it. Yet, who's on the hook for that? Taxpayer. So $4 trillion plus the 800 plus whatever billion, we can go ahead and run that off to $5 trillion now on the Federal Reserve balance sheet, so to speak, that we are all on the hook for. So I'm mentioning this whole thing of what do you think that this guy came up with that on his own? Like this is, I was sleeping. Wakes his wife up in the morning, honey. You know, I'm a congressman. I'm extremely important in this country. I'm very important. I just had a brilliant idea, which is why I'm a congressman. Well, what is it, honey? You just woke me up. What is it? I think I want to have specific high-risk mortgages, not have any appraisals, and have no consequences if no appraisals were done and something happens to the high-risk mortgage, like it defaults, can't get paid. Honey, are you smoking crack? No, it's brilliant. What are you talking about smoking crack? It's brilliant. This is great for the... think about that. Do you really think that's how that went down? Do you think he did that? Do you think any human being is that stupid? That ignorant? Especially one who's made it as a congressman. Got to have some intelligence to be that high up in the government, right? You think he's that stupid to do something like that on his own and just think this is a great idea? Or do you think a handful of cash was presented to him as a quote-unquote campaign contribution, and attached to that campaign contribution was a little letter or the bill itself already pre-written by someone else who then said, can you push this through? Now the next question I would have is who, financial institution, etc., because that's only, who benefits from a high-risk mortgage? That, in other words, high risk meaning there's a high risk of default. It's not a good one. It can definitely default. So why would you want the appraisal process completely removed? Is it because there's so many of these mortgages in our country currently still standing that have all become categorized, and not because they're expensive, just they've all of a sudden become categorized, and have been for years now, as high-risk mortgages, and there are tons and tons of them because of the previous crisis, and they're just sitting there in limbo, and they realize we will never be able to sell these houses if we allow a true and fair appraisal to take place nowadays, because these things were ballooned up in price, now have plummeted, and they will never recover to those prices they were at. We got to get rid of them. And there are still people out there stupid enough to pay the high price that these people, our clients, are asking. So we need a law passed so that if this doesn't work out too well... Had to pull a quickie there. If it doesn't work out too well, no one's in trouble. Because it'll be law. Congressmen will pass it, they'll get that bill passed through, and we'll be sitting pretty, we'll be able to get rid of all these high-risk mortgages, and thus causing the next financial crisis, because the amount of high-risk mortgages are probably off the charts. Mortgages you think are safe, secure, they're not that bad, they're just a little bit underwater, they are all categorized under high risk now. Because of the crisis. Because part 2 is coming. So I don't know if that's a good enough reason even for myself to say, well, that's why some financial person, party, company, whatever would probably give this guy a nice hefty campaign contribution in the form of cash payoff, is what they all are. Attached to that would be the letter saying, pass this bill for us. You know, I'd like to see some congressman somewhere say, look, Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of this great country, I want you to know what happens in Congress every day. What your representatives see, whether they're Republican, Democrat, whatever they are, whatever flavor, whether they're in the Senate, they're in the House, doesn't matter. I want you to be well aware of how this whole thing happens, how these bills come into play. Sometimes you'll see one that just is like, why would they ever pass that law? And ladies and gentlemen, I want to show you today how that happens. And they actually say, look, here's a letter from XYZ Corporation with a check in there for $60,000 to myself, as you can see here, for campaign contribution. And attached to it is a letter. And I'm going to read you the letter. And then they go on to read it. And it basically tells them, we need to change this law, amend this section of this law, the Truth in Lending Act. We need to scratch that one part out. And how many of these congressmen, women, the senators, the Congress, right? Isn't it 535 total between the House and the Senate, I think? Not one of them, at least as far as I can tell, I've never come across this in the history of politicians, and maybe it's out there somewhere, and if it is, hey, let me know, that have come out and done just that and said, look, I'm exposing this sham you call politics, and Republicans and Democrats and congressmen. I'm exposing it. Here's a letter I got personally with a campaign contribution. And if they don't pass the law, you ain't getting no more campaign contributions. Because the average citizen out there, we're so strapped for money, there's not a chance in hell the people who you're supposed to represent as government are going to be giving you a penny towards your campaign contribution. You're going to get so little from the average person, you're not going to have money to advertise. And if I can't advertise, I can't put my face and my pictures and all these little thing of a stake in the ground, these little signs everywhere. Every street you go down, you see my name, vote for Schmucky for Congressman. And as sheep, we just drive by, and finally it's time to vote, and well, I'm a Republican, or well, I'm a Democrat, and I saw that sign. The only thing I seem to remember is some guy named Schmucky. Why is that name sticking into my head? Schmucky. Well, he's a Republican and I'm a Republican, so there he is on the ballot. I'm going to vote for him. I don't know who this other person is. And little did you know that other person was the proper choice. It was another American like the rest of us who are fed up with this crap, but you've never heard of them. They didn't have the financial power, money to put all the signs out, to put the commercials out. So all you're left with in your mind is, what do I remember? I remember a name called Schmucky. And Schmucky is a Republican, and I'm a Republican, so I'm voting for him. My party's represented, and I feel comfortable with my decision. That is why they need the money. That's why they take the campaign contributions, so they can keep getting reelected. Because if you could have a job as a clown, to sit in your office all day, as the one congressman said on Glenn Beck's show a long time ago, the one who was ousted for, was he the guy that they alleged was messing with these boys, wrestling with these young boys, and he's like, oh, yeah, we're just wrestling, and everyone's like, you're not even related to them, like who would, that seems a little odd, almost, pedophilic, if you will. So he left, but on his way out, Glenn Beck said, I'll have you on my show, clear the air. And he couldn't clear the air. He just rambling. And then decided to talk about what happens in Congress every day. In any Congress office, any person's office. And he said they spend out of I forget the number he gave, if it was like a 10-hour day or something like that, 3/4 of it was spent with their staff and all, campaign contributions. So reach out. We got to get some campaign contributions. Go, let's find some campaign contributions. 3/4 of their day, roughly, was spent doing that. Shouldn't 3/4 of your day, matter of fact, 90%, if not more, of your day as a congressman or woman be spent doing what you're supposed to be doing for the citizens, for the greater good of the country. I think I just read you how that went. Take care.